The League of Women Voters is a national, nonpartisan organization formed to encourage citizen participation in government. It never supports or opposes any political party or candidate. The statements and opinions of the candidates are presented solely in the interest of public service and in no way are to be construed as an endorsement thereof by the League of Women Voters. The League of Women Voters takes no responsibility for the views or facts stated by the candidates. The audio or video from the forum may not be used in or for commercial advertising. This presentation is copyrighted by the League of Women Voters. All rights are reserved. This video may only be shown in its entirety.
Hello, my name is Dean Gugasian, and I have the privilege of serving as the president of the Oakland County Bar Association. Tonight, you'll be able to listen to two candidates tell you why they believe that they are the best person to serve you and your fellow citizens as a judge in the 52-3 District Court. A judge is asked every day to make important decisions, apply the law, and act as society's referee. If the judge is biased, incompetent, or intemperate, then everybody loses and justice is not served. On November 5th, you'll be asked to make one of the most important decisions voters are called upon to make. The decision as to who should serve as the judge in your district, probate, circuit, and appeals courts, and the Michigan Supreme Court. Perhaps the least understood elections are judicial elections. Therefore, the Oakland County Bar Association, in collaboration with the League of Women Voters of Oakland area, the Oakland County Legal News, and the Oakland Times, conducts judicial candidate forums in each district and court in Oakland County with a contested race to help you make the important decision of the appropriate judge, a decision that could affect you and your family for years to come. The American Bar Association, a national association of lawyers that has advised American presidents for over 50 years on the selection of judges, has outlined the following 8 factors to consider in selecting good, honest, competent, and hardworking judges. We endorse these factors and recommend them for your consideration as well. The first one is integrity. Is the candidate honest and open? Have they led an exemplary life? And will they be an example to those whose cases they must decide? The second factor is legal knowledge and ability. Has the candidate demonstrated knowledge of the law, either by good grades in law school, teaching at seminars, or simply demonstrating that they speak and write clearly and well? The third factor is professional experience. It is difficult to think of a judge who can competently hear disputes if the judge has not had much experience in the courtroom as a lawyer or other equivalent experience resolving disputes. The fourth factor is judicial temperament. Will the candidate be a judge who has a positive attitude, acts professionally, and treats all people with dignity and respect? And most importantly, is the candidate likely to remain impartial throughout all of the dispute resolution process? The fifth factor is diligence. Is the candidate likely to be a hard worker who efficiently manages a caseload and decides cases promptly and always is fully prepared? The sixth factor, what is the candidate's state of health? Is there anything about the candidate's physical or mental health that would interfere with their ability to complete an entire term or to perform the duties of a judge? The seventh factor is financial responsibility. Has the individual demonstrated prudence and responsibility in their own financial affairs? Does the candidate's record of financial responsibility reflect on whether they would serve the citizenry well? And the eighth and final factor is the question of public service. Serving on the judiciary is the ultimate act of public service. Has the candidate demonstrated a worthiness to accept this awesome position of responsibility by showing leadership in other organizations that have benefited the community throughout their past life? We strongly urge you to keep these factors in mind as you listen to the candidates speak, and most importantly, to remember to vote on the nonpartisan judicial ballot. Thank you for your attention and your interest in good government. And now here is Christine Allen from the League of Women Voters, our forum moderator. Christine?
Thank you, Dean. Got to lower this a little bit. Welcome to this forum for the 52-3 District Court incumbent partial term candidates. Today is September 5th, 2024. This forum will be featuring the candidates who have filed for the 52-3 District Court in Oakland County. There are 2 candidates for the term ending January 1, 2027. Sponsors of this forum are the League of Women Voters, Oakland Area, the Oakland County Bar Association, the OCBA, the Oakland County Legal News, the Oakland County Times, and Rochester Hills Television City Media Department. I am Christine Allen, a member of the League of Women Voters, Oakland Area. The League of Women Voters is a trusted, national, nonpartisan political organization. Our members do the hands-on work to safeguard democracy. While we never endorse a candidate, we are directly involved in shaping the important issues that keep our community strong. As a League of Women Voters member, I have the opportunity to contribute in leadership roles, such as this one, that has great impact on local, state, and even national issues. If you are interested in learning more about how you can make a similar impact, I would encourage you to visit our website, lwvoa.org. The League of Women Voters and the Oakland County Bar Association do not endorse any candidate or political party. The Oakland County Legal News may endorse candidates after this forum. The views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates, and the sponsors take no responsibility. The candidates in alphabetical order are Mr. Ryan Deel, Oakland County Probate Court, the Honorable Laura Polizzi, 52-3 District Court incumbent. The format for this forum has been established by the sponsors. We ask that candidates answer the questions with their views only and not interrupt another candidate. The candidates will be answering questions from our panelists, Tom Curvan, Editor-in-Chief of Oakland County Legal News, and Joe Papillion from the OCBA. Questions are submitted from the audience, and I will be reading those. Our screeners are Judge Bill Richards, Magistrate Sheldon Larkey, and Jonathan Martone. The format is as follows. All candidates will be given 1 minute for opening statement in alphabetical order. Closing statements will be 1 minute in reverse alphabetical order. Candidates will have 1 minute to answer each question. The first candidate to answer a question will be rotated. All candidates will be allowed equal time to answer questions. Anna Reisig will be the timer and indicate to candidates when they have 15 seconds left and when they must stop talking. We will begin the 1 minute opening statements with Mr. Deel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and good evening, everybody. I want to thank the League of Women Voters and the Oakland County Bar Association for putting on this event. My name is Ryan Deel. I'm a graduate of Michigan State University. Go Green! It's where I met my wonderful wife, Melinda. I'm also a graduate of Wayne State University Law School. I've been a lawyer for 23 years, both in private practice, and for the last 18 of those, I've served as the staff attorney for Chief Judge Linda Hallmark. In my private practice, I appeared in every district court in Southeast Michigan. My wife and I moved to this community over 20 years ago, and we absolutely love living here. I've spent the past 10 years serving this community as both a library board trustee and as a city council member. For the past 5 years, my fellow council members have elected me to serve as the president of the council. My wife is also active in the community, and she serves as the president of the Rochester Hills Public Library Board and is the immediate past president of the Oakland County Bar Association. I'm a proud parent of 2 twin sons who attend Rochester Community Schools, and I've been a devoted leader in this community through both triumphs and tragedy. It would be my honor to serve this community as your next district court judge.
Judge Polizzi.
Thank you. I'm Judge Laura Polizzi of the 52-3 District Court. I live in Rochester Hills with my husband and my 2 children. I've dedicated my entire professional life to serving the community, handling cases, and representing vulnerable populations such as juvenile human trafficking victims, and served as a guardian ad litem. I've litigated hundreds of cases, including family, business, and misdemeanor criminal matters. I've handled every type of case as an attorney that comes before a district court, and now I'm serving as a district court judge. As a judge, I opened a veterans treatment court in honor of my brother, who passed away 8 years ago of opiate addiction. Opiate addiction is an issue in the district courts that is prevalent every day, and I'm very passionate about addressing that issue. Judicial experience matters, litigation experience matters. I have a judicial experience, and I've been trusted by 28 Oakland County judges and 70 judges overall in the state of Michigan, including Supreme Court justices, with their endorsements. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will begin the question segment of our forum. We will begin with Mr. Curvan with a question for Mr. Deel.
Good evening. Describe what qualities you think are important for a judge, and tell us about a judge you admire and why.
Okay, well, that's a very easy question. You know, like I said, 18 years I've served as a staff attorney, and I've observed, obviously, judicial temperament is very, very important. Very oftentimes people are emotionally charged in these issues, and it's the judge's obligation to make sure that the court is maintained at, proper decorum. I also think that, knowledge of the law and, proper legal reasoning apply to the cases, because really and truly what you have to do is you have to properly analyze a case, and you have to apply the law equally and evenly to every case. You have to make sure that people need certainty when they enter the courtroom. It's very important that they understand more or less, especially the attorneys that appear in front of you, that they can rely on the reasoning. As far as a judge that I admire, I have to say it would be Judge Linda Hallmark. She's been my friend and mentor ever since I've worked for her, and I've appreciated her mentorship, and it's what makes me ready to serve as district court judge.
Thank you. Judge Polizzi?
Thank you. I think qualities that make a good judge are integrity. Integrity and treating every person that walks into the courtroom with the utmost respect, and treating them like they are human beings, because they're standing in front of you terrified of what's about to happen to them, questioning if they're walking out of there. So it's essential that people are treated with dignity, with respect. And somebody who embodies that dignity and respect is Judge Mark Switalski. I clerked for him before, and he was such an honorable person, treated everyone with respect, everyone that walked in his courtroom. Sometimes somebody was being sentenced to jail, and even the deputies didn't know that they were about to arrest somebody to take them to jail, because he treated them with such kindness and such respect. And that's something that I do every day in my courtroom. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will be from Joe Papillion, and it will go to Judge Polizzi.
Thank you. So I'm curious, since you've only been practicing 10 years, and really this is for both of you, since Deel, you've been a clerk, a judicial law clerk for so long. You said there were hundreds of cases that you've handled. Can you tell us about those and the number of jury trials that you've had?
Yes, I've served in the capacity of a guardian ad litem on many cases. I did juvenile cases. I did family law cases, criminal misdemeanor cases, real estate cases, business cases. I spent nearly every day litigating for basically a decade of my career. And it was very rewarding. Having that private practice experience made me get out into courts every day to fight for my clients. As far as trials, I prepped for jury trials. I hadn't had a jury trial. However, I've had bench trials, I've had tons of evidentiary hearings, and I have much trial experience. As a judge, I look forward to having my first jury trial, hopefully very soon. Thank you.
Mr. Deel?
Thank you. Yeah. When I started off, I was in private practice. I spent a good number of years in private practice with my wife. One of the things that we practiced I did criminal misdemeanor cases, usually low-level felonies. I was a court-appointed counsel through Oakland County. I did landlord-tenant. I did debt collection. I did routine traffic matters during that time. I've handled, during the time in private practice, I handled 2 jury trials. My wife has a better record than I do. She hasn't lost one. I sadly am batting 500, which is great in baseball. But in the probate court, we deal with jury trials regularly because we hear mental health jury trials. Generally, and they don't publish it too often, but generally we'll do about 1 a month on average. But some months are more than others. And very rarely do you have jury trials in trust cases or things like that. But when they come up, we do handle those as well.
Thank you. The next question comes from the audience. The question is, and this will go first to Mr. Deel. The question is, why Rochester Hills? Where has the bulk of your public service or legal career taken place? Thank you.
Well, my entire legal career has been spent in Oakland County. When I first started off into private practice, my wife and I, our law offices were in Troy, and then we were here then we moved here to Rochester Hills. And in 2006, I went to work for Judge Linda Hallmark. That's the Oakland County Probate Court right here, out of Pontiac, and it serves this community in this area. And in addition to that, all my public service has been right here in Rochester Hills.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Deel. And also, I just want to make sure that the audience is aware that we have a no electronics policy. So if you have your cell phone on, if you could make sure that it's off during the forum, we'd appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so the same question to Judge Polizzi. Do you want me to read it again?
Yes, thank you.
The question is, why Rochester Hills? Where has the bulk of your public service or legal career taken place? Thank you.
Well, why Rochester Hills? So I was born at Crittenton. I went to elementary school here in Rochester Hills. I went to junior high here. I went to Oakland University. I went to Cooley Law School in Auburn Hills. So all my schooling, most of my schooling has been in this district. I also live here with my 2 sons and my husband. So this is the place that I call home. And Rochester Hills is a very important community to me. I began my career working with the Family Law Assistance Project as a student, and it was through Oakland County-based Lakeshore Legal Aid. So that was a very rewarding way to start my practice, and I learned so much from that program. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from Joe Papillion, and it will go to Judge Polizzi.
I noticed in your response that you were in the Veterans Court and all, and I understand that your brother has passed away on that. What about other programs like diversion? Do you support those? And how do you work with the prosecutor's office? And how do you work with the Veterans Court?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? What
yeah, I mean, question? In diversion, as a judge, are you in favor of diversion programs? And if so, how do you implement them? How do you work with the police, with the prosecutor?
Okay. So I do work with diversion whenever it's offered in my court. I think the whole essence of having a treatment court or having diversion programs is allowing individuals to have the opportunity to go through that probationary period, to have that charge off of their record if they do everything that they're required to do, which is the essence of a diversion program. That is what a Veterans Treatment Court program does. So that's a very important program for me because district courts are typically an individual's first contact with the court, which means, it's very important to be able to give them that opportunity to have that clean slate if they comply with everything they are supposed to. So that's very important to district courts. Thank you.
And the question goes to Mr. Deel.
Yeah, and likewise, absolutely, I'm in favor of diversion programs, particularly for youthful and first-time offenders. And I've negotiated numerous diversion programs with the prosecutor's office and judges while I was in my criminal practice years ago, and I found them to be in practice very, very successful, and very, very successful at reducing recidivism when they're appropriate. So absolutely, yeah, no, I'm
very much in favor of diversion programs.
And the next question will be from Tom Curvan, and it will go to Mr. Deel.
Describe an ethical dilemma you faced during your career and how you resolved it.
That's a very good question, and I'll never, the answer to that, I'm going to have to truncate it because I can't tell it's hard to tell the entire story, but once I was representing as a lawyer guardian ad litem a young underage girl who was involved in a child neglect matter. She entrusted me. I explained to her my role as a lawyer guardian ad litem. I explained to her what that meant. I explained to her what an attorney-client privilege meant. And she said, okay, since you've explained to me the attorney-client privilege, I need to tell you some things, and the things that she told me were fairly horrific. But she said that she didn't want anyone to know, and that she wanted to keep that a secret. And despite my, every moral misgiving that I would have about something like that, I knew that I had an ethical obligation to maintain those secrets. But what I did was what I was able to do is utilizing that information without disclosing it to successfully advocate for the termination of parental rights, and I was able to get that accomplished for her and get her into foster care.
Thank you. The next question will be from Tom Curvan.
I don't think she had.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Sorry.
That's all right. Can you repeat the question?
Describe an ethical dilemma you faced during your career and how you resolved it.
Thank you. An ethical dilemma that I faced, the one I can think of, is representing a client in a high-asset divorce matter where a client disclosed assets to me that were sizable, but asked that I did not disclose those to anyone else. And in that type of matter, everything must be disclosed in the judgment. And with that knowledge, I counseled my client, and the client did not want to change his position, so I had to withdraw from that case. And I think that's important to stand up for what is right, even if it's sometimes the difficult thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question from the audience. What is your record of community involvement? And this question will start with Judge Polizzi.
Well, I have much community involvement. I can think of many things I've done, like helping a women's shelter who helped battered women. I volunteer for the women's basketball team as a mentor at Oakland University, where I went to school. I also am volunteering at the Oakland University Business School and their Executive and Residence program currently. I'm also a member of the District Court Treatment Court Program, or Treatment Court Association, as well as the District Court Judges Association. I've been a member of many bar associations, including the Italian Bar Association, the Hispanic Bar Association, and many others. I see I'm running out of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Deel?
Thank you. So I serve on all the way down to my homeowners association. I serve on my homeowners association. I serve on as you know, right, currently I serve as the city council member. I serve as the city council president. I've served as the library board trustee and vice president. I've served on the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. I've served on the Rochester Area Recreation Authority. I've served on with the Rochester Community Foundation. I'm on the board for the splash pad, for the fund that serves the splash pad victims. And I'm involved in a great many other activities in the community. It's really too much to list, but one of the things, I love doing it because I love this community. I love living here, and it's my privilege to serve this community.
Thank you. Tom Curvan will have the next question, and we will start with Mr. Deel.
What will be your approach to dealing with highly publicized or controversial cases?
Well, and that's, these cases come up fairly often, and in all honesty, it's pretty. We deal with them pretty routinely in the probate court, and I've dealt with them in my private practice. I've had cases that have appeared in the media where my wife has dealt with cases that have appeared in the media. And really, what you're doing in all of these cases is you're balancing the public's need to know with, the rights of the parties. I can honestly tell you that in the 18 years I've worked for Judge Hallmark, we've never denied a media request. We've allowed cameras in the courtroom. And most of the time in my dealings with the media, they have been very respectful of the court's rules. They set up in an area that is unobtrusive and just does not hinder the parties or the litigants and the witnesses. And so we've been able to handle media cases very, very well in our court.
Thank you. Judge Polizzi?
Well, I think it's very important to allow the media access to the courtroom. It's very important to the public that they know what is happening in the courtroom. And it's also a very important thing educationally for non-attorneys and non-judges to see what happens in the courtroom and to see that process in action. So few people only get to see it when they're serving on a jury trial as a juror. I think that it's important to ensure that the media is not interfering with the court process. Other than that, I think that the media being in the courtroom is a wonderful thing. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will be from Joe Papillion, and it will go to Judge Polizzi.
So since both of you had practiced some in the district courts, and many of us here have done so, there's a lot of frustration sometimes of court inefficiency. So please tell us how you will address the court efficiency to ensure that people aren't just waiting around forever before their case is called.
Well, something that we are doing currently in my courtroom is when I have a case ready, we take it. So if I have one case ready, if I have two cases ready, I take the bench and I'll do those two cases or that one case to make sure that those attorneys are getting out of there. As a previous attorney in private practice for many years, I knew what it was like to sit there and wait. And they call it hurry up and wait. So I try to make sure that we keep that docket moving. And I'm very cognizant of the fact that those clients are paying those attorneys hourly. It's really important to keep that docket moving for the clients and for attorneys that have other places to be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Deel?
One of the things that I've always held is that as a court, we are providing a public service. And in doing so, you want to provide that public service as efficiently as possible. One of the things that we've implemented in our courtroom that I find is highly effective is the use of telecommunications technology for taking cases. In other words, put simply, Zoom. We allow all of our cases to operate off of Zoom, and we've become very, very efficient at it. It was one of those things that was forced on us at the beginning of the pandemic, but to be honest with you, it's turned out to be wonderful for both the attorneys and the parties alike. We found that we get far more participation from parties when we have electronic participation. We find that we get more, we get less adjournments because the attorneys are generally more available and they're able to fit us into their docket. And generally, we can handle those cases very, very efficiently that way. So I'm a big proponent of the utilization of that.
Thank you. The next question from the audience. What is your opinion of House Bill 5326? If House Bill 5326 is enacted, the bill would do two things. First, it would allow magistrates to handle landlord-tenant pretrials, and second, it would give magistrates who are attorneys the authority to conduct summary proceedings in landlord-tenant cases. Do you think this would be good for your court? And this question will start with Mr. Deel.
Okay, so this is my first time hearing of that House bill, but I will say, having done landlord-tenant matters, in the past, one of the things I can tell you, you go in there for a landlord-tenant day and you are in a line behind so many people and you're waiting and you're trying to negotiate both with the tenants, and you want to get your case heard. allowing magistrates to handle proceedings like that, I think would be an absolute, wonderful thing for the courts. Most of the magistrates are very, they do their job very, very well. They know the law, and they'll give a very good read to the parties. And it goes to the question of efficiency. I mean, this is just an absolute efficiency measure for the courts. So even though this is my first time hearing about it, my initial reaction to it is I would be very much supportive of it.
Okay, thank you. Judge Polizzi.
Thank you. It's also my first time hearing about this specific rule, but I was aware that there was talk about this topic, and I think that, well, let me start by saying in 52-3 District Court, we have 3 magistrates currently who are all wonderful. They do a great job and they have great experience. I think that if they were to assist with that landlord-tenant docket, it would be it would be great, especially in the interest of judicial economy and moving things along. And it kind of relates to the last question, which is, moving dockets along, efficiency, utilizing that time, which is so important. And landlord-tenant dockets have a tendency to get backed up in the court. So if the magistrates can assist with that, that would be a wonderful thing for the court and the community. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will come from Joe Papillion, and we will start with Judge Polizzi.
Well, I'm following up on this efficiency thing that you both seem to have supporting it. I mean, what about the use of pretrials and forcing settlements? And is that something that you believe magistrates should be involved with, or something the judge should be involved with? Because frankly, sometimes lawyers don't like having their cases heard by a magistrate and prefer a judge. Do you believe a litigant has the option to opt out of having a magistrate?
Well, currently at 52-3, the pretrials are done by the judges, and I think that it's ran very efficiently, and in those pretrials, we're able to assist in helping figure out, okay, what are the issues of this case and how quickly can we move it along? I'm not sure that, I have never explored the idea of putting that on a magistrate. I hope that answers the question, but...
But there is a follow-up. If you see a lawyer or a litigant that's not doing something that you think is reasonable, are you prepared to, issue sanctions in the case that they're litigating improperly? You both seem to be pretty nice people. I want to make sure that there's some strength behind what.
Well, absolutely. I think that if something is sanctionable, then yes, you have to sanction that person, just as, I've had to send people to jail. We're nice people, but I have to do my job as well. And moving the court along and being efficient is what you have to do for this job. Thank you.
And Mr. Deel?
So first of all, with respect to settlement, one of the things that I've really been excited about, and it's been kind of interesting following while my wife was the president of the Oakland County Bar Association, was them getting started the Oakland County Bar Association mediation services for district courts. I'm really excited about seeing that get online, and I think that will help greatly by providing attorney mediators to help mediate cases in the district court. So I'm really, really excited about that, and I think that will help a lot with getting cases resolved. As a staff attorney, one of my jobs, and my judge uses me sometimes in a very unique way, my job is to many times be the mediator of last resort. I will sit down with the parties and attempt to achieve a resolution, attempt to work things out, find some common ground that can help resolve a matter. So I'm not opposed to if you have staff who are competent and capable of doing it, I'm not opposed to it. I've done it, so I'm happy to delegate that authority as well if I think that they can do it. As far as sanctions, when you have to issue sanctions, you issue them, and that's the appropriate thing to do.
And the next question is from Tom Curvan, and it will go to Mr. Deel.
Share an example of a particularly meaningful pro bono case you were involved in and what you learned from it.
So one of the pro bono cases I was involved in early on in my career involved a young lady who was, she was the victim of domestic violence, and I helped her through that ordeal. It was, it was difficult because it's difficult those are difficult topics, and but it was also very, very rewarding to take someone out of a very, very violent and potentially deadly situation and get their life back on track. That case came to me, by the way, through the Oakland County Bar Association's referral service. And, I was a young lawyer, and I handled the case, and, especially for me, it was startling and shocking and not something that I typically dealt with, but at the end of the day, ultimately extremely rewarding when you get that young lady out of that terrible situation.
Judge Polizzi?
Thank you. 2 cases come to mind, but one of them was a juvenile human trafficking case where a juvenile was charged criminally, but it was a juvenile who had been trafficked. I was, the attorney on this case, and this juvenile was from, I don't want to disclose too many details about the case, but this juvenile had nobody in the United States. His family was from out of the country, and it was unusual that it was a boy. And, we were able to link this individual to many services that he was so thankful to have been provided: housing, food, clothing, schooling. I mean, the court was able to link that person to all of those services, and it was extremely rewarding. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the next question from the audience. And this is as an incumbent and non-incumbent, because we've got 2. What would you change in the operation of the court? In this question, we will start with Judge Polizzi.
Well, I'm working on some changes now. I'm working on implementing more Zoom court when necessary or when practicable. And I say that because district court, there are a lot of individuals who are impro per or representing themselves, and it can be difficult for them sometimes to miss work, or it can be difficult for them to drive to court if they don't have a driver's license. And we're dealing with a lot of those cases. So offering that Zoom option is extremely helpful in a district court, as well as I've implemented a veterans treatment court. And that was a gap in our court, that we didn't have a veterans court. So this veterans court allows these veterans the opportunity to participate in a program where if they complete all of the requirements, they have the opportunity to have that charge taken off of their record at the end of the veterans court. Thank you.
And Mr. Deel?
So, once again, as I indicated before, I'm a huge proponent of utilizing telecommunication technology in the courtroom. When this situation was, the pandemic was quite new. We had to hit the ground running with it, and I was able to work with the State Court Administrative Office to help get things up and running and set up standards and practices and best practices to make that work for the public and for the litigants and the attorneys. One of the things that we were able to do is during Wednesday mornings, sometimes you have attorneys who are in the courthouse, and then you're also running a virtual docket. What we were able to do is we were able to actually set it up so that we can do a hybrid, so that we can have so that the attorneys who are there in the building can appear there in the courtroom with the judge, and the parties that are virtually can be online and on the screen for everybody to see and hear. The other thing that I would implement is I would work in partnership with the Oakland County Bar Association and their mediation services, because once again, I think that is a phenomenal thing that they've got set up there and running, and I'd love to participate in that.
Thank you. All right, this will be the last round of questions, so we'll go Tom, Joe, and then one more for the audience. And the first question will be, or this last question will be from Tom Curvian, and go to Ryan Deel, please.
How do you get up to speed on an area of the law which you have little or no experience?
That's a great question, and it's one that I confront, every day. The first thing I do is to read the briefs of the parties. they know their case, and they've researched the law much more deeply than I have. They live and breathe their case. You know, we may have 30 up that morning, but the attorneys have lived and breathed that case. So I start from the briefs. From there, I follow through with my own legal research, and I read the cases that they've cited. I shepherdize those cases. I look more deeply into the other cases that kind of. Then I move to sometimes if it's an area with which I am not very familiar, I'll look to the treatises to educate myself, you know, a little with where people have done kind of the work compiling that for you. So that's kind of my process in understanding it. But generally, you know, I find that if you have good attorneys who do good briefing, it goes a long way to help you understand that area of the law. Attorneys, please brief your issues well. That would be my advice to everyone.
Thank you. Judge Polizzi?
Can you repeat the question?
This is from Tom Kervin.
Thank you.
Yes. How do you get up to speed on an area of the law where you have little or no experience?
Well, that's why they call it the practice of law, right? So we're always practicing, we're always learning new things because the law is ever evolving. And I think I start always when I don't know an area by reading the court rule. Then I would do a memorandum of law for myself and go through and figure out, you know, the intricacies of that law specifically. I am blessed to have wonderful staff at the court, including a wonderful staff attorney who I've had to do this with several times. So she would help do a memorandum of law as well, and we would compare that. And we would read the attorney's briefs and then assess from there. Thank you.
Joe,
Yep.
the Papillion, one last question, and we'll start with Judge Polizzi.
So, so you've been in the court for a while, and Mr. Deel, you've been in court for even longer. Tell me, how do you deal with an incompetent lawyer if you feel that they're not representing the client well at all?
Well, unfortunately, it's happened, and I think it's important to have that attorney, you know, have a sidebar with that attorney and ask them what is going on. Of course, in a criminal matter, you're having the prosecutor and the defense attorney approach for that, and you have to deal with it delicately to make sure that they are on their game because they owe it to their clients. They owe it to their clients. Their clients are paying them to be there, or they work for the prosecutor's office. You know, it can happen on either side, and it's important to address the issue. Once you've addressed the issue, if it goes further, then, you know, something else has to be done, and you go up the ladder from there.
Would you admonish the attorney in court so the party understands that the judge, you, are not very happy with him or her?
Well, I think that depends on the circumstance. I don't think you ever start with admonishing an attorney on the record. We all come to work to do a job, and I don't think anybody wakes up in the morning and wants to do a bad job. So I think you address that privately with the attorney. If it continues and it's causing a prejudice to the client, then you may need to address it on the record so that you have a record of that incompetence or whatever is occurring. But I really think it's specific to whatever the circumstance is that you're referring to.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Deel?
In my experience, there's really, you can categorize these in two types of categories of cases where the attorney is not properly representing the client. The one is the unprepared attorney. The unprepared attorney is a little bit easier to deal with. You know, things happen. Attorneys sometimes their caseloads are large, or sometimes they just everything, you know, jets up against one another. What I would hope is, and what I always hope is, that attorneys have a line of communication to the office. If they're don't feel like they're going to be prepared, first of all, if you don't feel like you're going to be prepared, contact Chambers. Ask for an adjournment. You know, Chambers will generally be very, very accommodating with you on that. The other, but to the extent that, you know, they're unprepared, an adjournment, maybe you may have to have a sanction because, you know, you're wasting the other side's time by dragging them into court unprepared. The other is the incompetent lawyer. And now that is the more rare case, but it does happen. And when it does, that's a case where you have to kind of pull that lawyer aside and say, you might need to get out of this case or we're going to have to take other appropriate action.
Great, thank you. And the last question from the audience. Could you discuss an experience in your life that has motivated you to become a better person and a better public servant?
Anna.
And this goes to Mr. Deel. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I think that's a fairly easy one, and it happened rather recently. Back in June, we had an incident here where there was a gunman at a splash pad. It was probably one of the most both terrifying and horrific events I've ever had to go through, but it was also a moment where I had to exhibit a certain degree of leadership, as the mayor contacted me frantically on his way to the scene. He is the executive officer, and as the president of city council, I'm the next in line in the emergency succession planning. I understand when a community goes through hardship, when it goes through a tragedy. And if that case had ended up in any other way, that individual would have ended up in the district court. And because of incidents like that and understanding how those incidents impact our community, their first stop would have been the district court, I should say. Understanding how those events impact the community and the city at large, that has forever changed me and underlines the importance of the decisions that we make on the district court.
Thank you. Judge Polizzi?
Can you repeat the question?
Can you discuss an experience in your life that has motivated you to become a better person and a better public servant?
Yes, the loss of my brother. 8 years ago, my brother passed away of opiate addiction. My brother was an Iraq war veteran. He was in active combat, came home, and unfortunately, he was prescribed opiates where, he didn't intend to become addicted to them. He required them medically. He became addicted to them. And this is a classic story that appears in district court regularly. In fact, I represented my brother in district court cases while he was going through that. And unfortunately, there was a gap in services where there wasn't services available to get him to that maybe could have assisted. So that changed me as a human being because it made me want to become a district court judge, and it made me want to address these issues in court. And the thing about it is that when somebody's standing before me in my court, they're a defendant, but they could also have been my brother. They could have also been one of your family members. And that's why it's so important to treat every person with dignity and respect when they walk into the courtroom. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the time for our questions. The candidates will now be given 1 minute to make a closing statement in the reverse order of the opening statements, beginning with Judge Polizzi.
Thank you. Again, I'm Judge Laura Polizzi of the 52-3 District Court, and I've dedicated my life to serving the community. I have litigated hundreds of cases in a large array of matters: family law, criminal misdemeanors, real estate, business. I've litigated every matter that comes before a district court judge, and I've had the pleasure of now serving as a district court judge. It's been a wonderful and rewarding experience. Judicial experience matters, litigation experience matters, and I have been trusted by 28 Oakland County judges and 70 judges in the state of Michigan overall with their endorsements. And I ask the community to also support me this November, and I look forward to continuing to serve as your judge. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Deel?
Thank you, and thank you everyone for the opportunity to be here with you this evening and to share why I think I should be your next district court judge. It's been a tremendous honor to get to serve this community for the last 10 years, and the communities that make up this district share similar values. In many cases, they share school districts, chambers of commerce, and other civic organizations. Our judges should understand the communities that they serve and how the decisions they make impact those communities and impact us all. I think my combination of public service and my service in the judiciary for over 18 years make me uniquely qualified to be a district court judge. I've dealt with all aspects of being a judge, from demeanor, docket management, legal reasoning, judicial philosophy. I've spent the last 18 years in the best hands-on environment to make me able to serve you all as district court judge on day one. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
Thank you. The sponsor would like to thank the candidates for their participation. For further nonpartisan information on these candidates, check the league website for our voters guide with lwvoa.org or connect with vote411.com. When known, rebroadcast times of this forum will be on the LWVOA and the OCBA websites. The League of Women Voters is funded by contributions from concerned citizens and businesses. Our partnership is open to women and men over the age of 16. Remember, you can vote early in your communities at your early voting location, October 26th through November 3rd, or you can vote at your precinct on November 5th. Democracy is not a spectator sport. Thank you very much.
Because